Hi, this is Reg Athwal, and welcome to another episode on our channel for Family Business Legacies. Now, you will know from the past, if you've watched other episodes, I've interviewed people who are third, even fourth generation family members of legacy businesses. But today's going to be different because it's not just about a family business legacy from one generation to the next. Sometimes you could have first generation entrepreneurs connected to a bloodline where it's about the values, it's about the influence from previous generations that may have not been entrepreneurs that had an impact on the next generation. So today I'm really excited to have a very dear friend of mine, my brother from the UAE, United Arab Emirates. I've known him for well over a decade, probably 15 years almost. And we've crossed paths many a times at a personal level as well as a professional and business level. And this is a real pleasure because I've been waiting to do this for a few years. So welcome, Ali Al Saloom.
Assalamu alaikum. Hi, Reg. Very happy to be with you here
Thank
today.
you
Thank
very
you so
much for being with us during Ramadan and sending best wishes to the whole family, and especially with all this crisis going on right now, you know, not just UAE, but globally. And there's a lot of things that we have to take into consideration, you know, with what's happening with businesses. But I want to get stuck in, and we'll go on this journey from past to present and future. And could you share maybe, you know, when you were growing up as a child, how did your father, and God bless his soul, how did your father influence you as a child?
Stories and the storytelling that will always stick to me, Reg, until this day. Wherever I go, wherever I am, I have my father picture with me all the time. And I remember his voice. I remember the tone of his voice. I remember the warmth of the way how he basically shared all of the stories with me. And I'm not exaggerating here to say, but I still live those fairy tale stories, you know, when I say with my dad. But it was not really fairy tales of Cinderella. It was all about the values that he received from, you know, our grandfathers. And so the best thing that I could say that in every single journey I took with my father, I visited almost 50 countries around the world with him. And in every single country, I would really learn something new. So it's storytelling, it's learning. And I've never known that time that I would, you know, be into speaking and inspiring people. But I think there was a roots to that, and it was his lessons, his teachings, and the moments that I shared with him in every single journey.
So can I just say, you know, I mean, just to come in there, I mean, that's very rare, and what a rich experience to go to 50 countries as in, you know, in your youth. There's not many people around the world have had that opportunity. And here you are, we'll get to the present and future, but here you are where your history has repeated itself, and you're now going back and traveling all over the world and have been to, I don't know, what, 180 countries or so?
191.
191. I mean, there is only 200 formal countries and probably 230 with informal, certain borders and islands. You've practically covered the world. So your father's definitely influenced you there from a young age, yeah?
My dad started as a scout into this whole traveling part. You know, first he had to travel for education between Lebanon and between Saudi Arabia and some other countries in the region. And then later on, it became all part of his passion with regard to scouting. Now, we don't come from an army background family, but we do come from a disciplined kind of form of a family where, you know, you have to wake up early morning, you really have to make your own bed. A man is a man if he does it, if he really takes care of his own bed. That's what my father used to say. You know, you go get your own bottle of water. You don't let somebody go get your own bottle of water. You know, things like that. You know, and he took all, when he used to travel, he would actually first took all of the 20, 30 students from the UAE, and he was also young. He was in his early 20s when that happened. And one of the first countries he's visited was Japan. And and then it became Spain, where I went first in my life with him when I was only 2 years, but I don't have memories. I have pictures. And Madrid was the first city that I visited. But those countries did have a lot of impact on my father, because he believed that he had to be in touch with the people, and he lived with families from those countries. So yeah, later on we can speak about what I'm doing now, but everything I'm doing right now is really going back to where he visited, and trying to see and compare the difference. Now the magic thing here, Reg, is that my father spoke 5 languages that managed to take him easily into all of the continents and around the world. So many people would not even know that English is good for Latin America, because there is a country called Guyana, and their first language is English. It's not Spanish, it's not Dutch, it's not French, and it's fascinating. So he would always say German, French, English, Chinese, and Hindi. Indian. These 5 languages can take you around the world so easily. Now you would say Russia, yeah, Russia is also important. Some other countries around the region, but he spoke those 5 languages, Reg, and it was fascinating. And when you learn a language, you learn the culture behind that language as well.
Mm.
So my father was a global citizen in that period of the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, and I traveled with him, and I was so lucky. Even though I feel like my time with him was a bit short, because he passed away young, 58 years old.
Can
However,
I share with you just briefly before I want to capture this moment with you, where with all the family businesses that we've worked with over the years, and we've seen a pattern, which is if a senior generation can take their child before the age of 7 and allow them to become observers or get exposed to whatever they do. In this case, it may have not been a family business. You were an observer of life, okay? And your father's journey in life from a very young age. And we found that whenever that happens, whether it's someone walking in a manufacturing plant with their grandfather, whether it's someone who's in their father's chair swiveling it around, whether they're an observer in a boardroom just watching what's going on,
sure.
You positively inject something into that person's brain at a young age to go, you know what, I want to be part of this.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that's happened for you, isn't it?
Yeah, when my dad used to take care of Al Jazeera Football Club and Sport Club in Abu Dhabi, he would take all of the players, and when they used to go to Czechoslovakia at that time, Czech Republic now, and some other countries, he would actually ask them to read a book. And they say, we're sportsmen, we don't really read books. And that was funny for him, because he says, you need to really have a very good value of reading. And so today when people see me, can you imagine people stop me and say, your father made me read that book, 300 pages. It was because of your father. And I don't even know that, because my father never forced me to read the book. But, he would say research is important, you need to read and all of that. So I agree 100% that most of the actions that I have today injected in me, is because of the moments I shared with my father. And I really encourage, all the time, my children with me now, is that they say, oh, we're going to travel. I'm like, yeah, we have to travel. And my family would say, but they're not going to remember none of this. Like when you take them to Disney, when you take them like to the desert, when you go out on a safari on any country, people would say, why would you spend money on your children now and take them? It's a waste of time, because they're not going to have a memory. But here's the thing, a hug will never be remembered by a child. When you hug a child, the child will not remember that you hugged them after 20 years, but it's the emotions that has been
But they
connected
feel it,
in
don't
there.
they? They felt
But they
it.
feel it.
Yeah.
They felt it, and that's how I see that. It's been very important that I traveled with my father.
So
Very lucky.
Can I ask you, tell us more about what you referenced it many years ago as culture codes or cultural codes.
Yes.
Linking childhood to adult life, and then this whole space around culture. Could you expound on what are culture codes and why is it important locally as well as internationally?
Wonderful question. because I feel I cannot have enough of this, you know. It's like I breathe it every day. Culture connect. No matter what we do, no matter what we read, no matter
So we had a slight glitch there, bit of technology, hey, fun and games. We're back in the room again. Ali, so cultural codes. Walk us through, what is this?
So, you know, Reg, we all come from these different backgrounds and we have different languages and we have different history and we have this and this and that. But once you really realize that we all connect one way or the other, and the similarities are much more than the differences, then that is a language on its own. And if you master that language, I believe, that is just my belief, that, you know, every single closed door would open, every single window would open for you. Now, how would I, for example, where I come from, where I'm based in this part of the world, with 200 nationalities living on our own land in the UAE, yet we are able to connect with everybody, do business with everybody, Rich. Like, you know, this is probably one of the places in the world where an Indian and a Pakistani would do a perfect business, you know, and they would be like so awesome about it. A Serbian with a Bosnian, with a blood history between them, but in the UAE, they would be just perfect together and all of that. So that is the philosophy I believe in, is that once we realize what really matters to you, what really matters to me, and we appreciate it, then the language of respect and creativity and innovation can be really
So can you give
perfect
us an
here.
example then of how those cultural codes show up? Okay. And what could be one or two tips for anyone who's watching this today, who's not only learning about your legacy, but also learning from you as an expert of things to be aware of and apply when it comes to cultural codes?
So when it comes to the business etiquettes, that where you are today in the UAE and you are living in the different emirates of the UAE, so how would you actually now carry and try to connect the similarities and the differences between each emirate and their mindset on how to do business? So for example, if you have a business right now that is based in Dubai and you want to actually expand to Abu Dhabi, it is not just, hey, let's just go open a branch in Abu Dhabi and that's it. It's not really that way. You need to understand where to open in Abu Dhabi. You need to understand that in Abu Dhabi's culture is different slightly from Dubai, if not more. Sharjah is, on the other hand, also have a different kind of you know, let's say, aspect of the business. And so once you realize these differences and put it all together into, on a page and write it down, you will realize that, okay, I need to do 1, 2, 3 to be able to connect there perfectly. Can you imagine, Rich, even the language that is being used is different from one country to another, and we are all Arabs. But one thing that is being said in Oman doesn't necessarily would succeed in Saudi Arabia, vice versa between here or Bahrain or so on and so on. And we are all Arabs. Just because we're all Arabs doesn't really matter. It's like, you know, going to somebody in India and going to somebody who's an Indian in Fiji and speaking to the guy from India and Fiji the same way that is the guy in India. It doesn't work.
Right.
And how does that come? It comes once you realize that the culture is different from that person to the other in India.
And that could apply to anywhere in the world, yeah? When you've gone to 190 odd countries around the world, it will apply, you will see that from one country to another. I mean, if you go to the UK, people say UK or Britain, but you've got England, you've got Wales, you've got Scotland, you've got Ireland, and then even if you take London in the UK, you've got all these different aspects of London where people even speak differently or act differently. These are all cultural codes, yeah?
Absolutely. You know, the time aspect, you know, so can you imagine a guy from Sweden or a guy from Germany coming to this region for the first time, and his appointment is at 10 o'clock a.m. He would show up at 9:30 or 9:45. The people that are hosting him, they think as part of the hospitality is that for the next 1 hour, they just have to sit, have some date, have some coffee, speak about how he's doing, you know, how his life, and then start the business. That other guy would actually assume that those people are not respectful. Am I saying that we are not on time? No. In fact, Rich, I think we are the most punctual people on earth. How is that? Well, in this region, you hear 5 times a day the call to prayer. it never stops for 1,441 years. It never stops. So we are punctual, but the priorities are different. And now, are you able to have a big heart, a big brain, to be able to observe and accept and embrace and appreciate all of the differences of those people around the world and search for the similarities? Be patient is the most key word here that I see for people to have a successful businesses. And those with family businesses know exactly the value of patience, because it just doesn't happen that way. You need to be patient.
So can I ask you then, we've talked about travel, how that influenced you from your father. That automatically got into different cultures that you experience. That's developed, intercultural codes. But at some stage, and I remember the first time we met was in Barcelona, okay? And
Yep.
maybe you can share the story where from there was a young man working in the tourism authority in a full-time role. And walk us through and talk us through what happened for you around that time. And then we'll talk about how your entrepreneurial journey has taken off since and all the touch points of it.
So in Barcelona, it was one of these famous, exhibitions that we participate as part of the Emirates of Abu Dhabi plan for tourism. It was huge, it was big, and we have this session that we have to attend, from during the exhibition time. And I was one of course, the staff of Abu Dhabi Tourism Authority. I remember that time, and by attending these sessions, you actually have to attend and choose whichever you want. And I remember on that day that I was not really feeling, where I'm gonna go. I'm just gonna follow my boss, Jillian Tyler. I want to see where she's gonna go, and I'm just gonna go join her. I came late, and as I came late, I had to be, they had to put chairs in the front because it was full packed room, a few hundreds, and I had to go all the way to the front of the stage and sit down there. So I'm looking at the speaker like this while my head is up because he's on the stage. And so he's speaking, and this gentleman, he's speaking about, his great wall of vision, and, what does he wish to have one day. And as he's speaking, he's mentioning Dubai. That's where, my country. And then he's mentioning about his house, dream house that he wants to achieve and to own. And then he says, where I live now, I live in that house. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And so, as most speakers, when they finish, you always want to have a piece of them. So if there's something like a book, you would go and grab it. If there is a business card and so on. So this gentleman, what does he do? He goes and he says, I got this book. Who wants to have it? He puts the book in front of everybody. So literally the book was in a glimpse of my eyes just there. I can see it. But here's the thoughts in my mind right now. I'm like, where I come from, it's very impolite to take a step like that and just grab something from somebody without taking a permission, without asking, without this. And while everybody in the room, those hundreds, are just like wishing to have and saying, excuse me, yes, I will take it. That, an older lady just passes by, coming from the back. She's walking step by step. Bang, she goes all the way. And I can see her hands with her, very lovely elderly kind of, what do you call them? The veins in her hands going, and grabbing that book. And then she just goes, and the speaker says it's never too late, for anybody to take this. And I'm looking at this and I'm like into this one of my, the stories that I live in all the time. And then everybody, of course, stopped. Everybody cheered and clapped for the gentleman speaking and the lady, and then we are all standing and waiting in line to shake the hand of that speaker. And all I wanted to do is just to say that, hey, I'm from the UAE, because where I come from, see, that's Culture Connect. Priority to us is the religion and the pride of who we are, where we come from. You see what I'm saying? So all what I wanted to do is I will wait for those 60, 70 people standing, or 100, and I don't mind to be number 101 just to shake this man's hand and say, hey, you know what? I come from this country that you're actually living in right now. So here I am walking, and I see, of course, the gentleman in front of me saying, Assalamu alaikum, how are you? My name is Ali Al Saloom. And there we go. Before, I know it, he says, I'm going to give you a card. And I got that card, and I read the name on the card. And what does it say? Rich Athwal. And that was you. So And so
That's how we
that
met.
inspired me. So we met, and so I got inspired a lot by that, by that moment and time that we spent in realizing who we are and what we are and what you do and what I do and so on. And then of course we get connected from there. But that was a very inspiring for me. I carry on that until today. I feel like I'm carrying some of your own legacy now by using
Well, you know what?
the book.
It's special for both of us, I think. And the way I look at it is, even with this video today, and whoever's watching this, this is not just for us. It's for the viewers, but also it's for our children. This means a lot to share these stories, because in 10, 15, 20 years time, they'll be watching this. Our grandchildren will be watching this.
Absolutely.
And they'll know, oh yeah, that's how, Ali and Reg, how they know each other, how these two families know each other. And so it means a lot to me. But I think to step in with that story, I admired Ali to wait patiently. He talks about, this value of being patient. He patiently waited until everybody else had gone to be the last person for us to connect. And you don't know who you're going to meet, where you're going to meet them, and how your paths cross them. Sometimes you meet people in life, you only know them for a week, and that's the end of the relationship, or they work for you, or you have a business partner relationship for 6 months, a year, and then off they go. It's very rare to have relationships that can last. And I was looking back, it was around 2005. Around that time was that conference, which is over 15 years ago. It's amazing to have relationships that can last that long, where there's been some years where we may only meet up twice in the year, but it's like, it doesn't matter, because in that moment, it's like we were just together a week earlier, and you can pick up from where you left off. But I want to continue the story because, and I'll keep it brief because this is about you, not about me, where we had a conference, a Professional Speakers Association conference taking place. And I used to be past president of the association in the UK. And cutting a long story short, my wife and I were given this responsibility for this non-profit organization to be the host, the first time ever to be the host of the Global Speaker Summit. And Dubai was chosen last minute because another country had bailed out from hosting this event. They couldn't do it. So we said, we'll do it. Now, normally it takes a good couple of years to host such an event. We had about 9 months, and eventually we did it. It was branded as the International Gathering for Speakers. We had 120 international speakers from 21 countries visit the UAE, and for most of them, it's the first time they ever came to this country. And I remember when we were organizing, who's going to speak, keynote speakers, breakout sessions, we had one rule in the association. You could only be on the main platform if, one, you were already a certified speaker, or two, the board agree that that person is already a celebrity speaker, as a celebrity brand. And I knew we had to do something different, because with all these people coming into the country, we needed to get them to understand the culture. And I thought of Ali. I knew that he was with the Tourism Authority. I knew that he had a passion to become a speaker. And we took a massive risk. I knew it wasn't a risk, but everybody else thought it was a risk, which was to have a person who wasn't part of the association, was not a celebrity brand at that time, okay, and would deliver a keynote speech on the main platform. So I'm going to leave it there. Maybe you can share, if you can remember the title. I remember the title of that speech. And,
I do.
and what was it like for you delivering your first ever keynote in front of professional speakers?
Wow. Yeah. Absolutely. I remember every single minute of it, Reg. It was a great step of learning in my career and my life and everything. But, there is something about that, is that my father used to tell me all the time, the only way to learn is by embarrassing yourself. And what does that mean? It means, a lot of us are afraid to make mistakes because we come from cultures that we should really not lose face, and we should not really embarrass ourselves. But in reality, if I say everything right now and I want to learn, the only way to learn is that if you did a mistake, you'd be like, I did this mistake once, I'm not going to do it again. And so that was actually my technique, which I did not reveal the secret to any of you before. That was the thing that got me, okay, I'm just going to go for it. And that's it. And I'm going to just be in the front there saying that, I'm the best speaker in the world and I have the best title, to kiss or not to kiss. So go with full heart, with a very interesting title, stand there like a lion, and just go with it. And I remember the big screen and with under the patronage of Sheikh Mohammed, God bless him, and all of that audience. And you know what's really interesting, Raj, is that you did something very smart. You did many things smart, but I mean that day when I was, about on the stage, is that I did not get to know all of those big names before I went on stage. That made me feel that I am the biggest name, with everybody there. I'm coming to do the keynote speech, and the trust and the belief and this whole emotions and vibrations of like, I can do it. That actually made it, look so simple. And one of the techniques that I used was, that I'm not a good podium guy speaker. Like I cannot even hold my hands now. I'm sorry, but so I had to walk, and that also helped me. And what was so unique is that my eyes used to be on you all the time, and I could see the body language. Now, I was not expert in body language at that time, but I know from my experience with my father, if somebody is comfortable with you, how they would sit, how they would, react. And I feel that it was an amazing magic that took place there, and it was beautiful.
Well, it was,
so yeah.
It was magical. Ali went out into the audience. He commanded the audience. He didn't stay on the platform for long. He engaged with people. He did a couple of cultural exercises, and he changed, people's lives, because people experience what it was like to meet an Arab man who's talking about his country, about his culture. To kiss or not to kiss, was a great line. And for those of you into marketing, or you're trying to do your first speech out there, you've got to have a good hook. Okay, you've got to get people's attention. So that was also the first glimpse of me that, hang on, this young man also has marketing strengths as well. Not just can speak, passionate about culture, but he also has this ability to create marketing spin on what he's doing. So cutting a long story short, not only did Ali launch his speaking career off the back of that, but I'm going to keep it brief. For those of you who don't know Ali and you're watching this on a platform where you're thinking, who is this gentleman? Google him. I'll make sure in the descriptions below you've got the website for his companies, not company, companies. Okay, his personal profile, his Insta handle. Go and check out what he's doing. He's published books. He's spoken to thousands of audiences on cultural code and other programs. He's launched multiple businesses. He's invested in other people when it comes to ventures. And I want you, Ali, if you could share briefly about the lessons of entrepreneurship, okay? For those watching for the first thing, I want to start my own business. I have a business, but it needs to be more successful. What are some of the ingredients of being a speaker, publishing books, investing in companies? Give us the secret sauce, okay, of wisdom, of what does it take? What do you need?
So, Reg, when 20 years ago, exactly 17 years ago, the idea was simple. A piece of paper, a pen, and I wrote at, which I use as my initial. So that's an at, and I made a line just like that, some lines, and I wrote into each one of them, www. Here I wrote radio, here I wrote TV, here I wrote books. So the first thing is you need to really ink your ideas, but instead of inking your ideas, you need to actually ink the achievements. So what I wanted to do is that something I'm gonna create, but I wanted to be online. And that was one of my own achievements at that time, is that I wanted to have a good website, because at that time it was the website era. Now we have the social media, but at that time, if you have a very good website with 300,000 members, that is very, successful. So I did it that way. I've inked every single idea. And so then what I really like to advise anybody who wants to really achieve anything in life, and that is my own philosophy. You really need to be good at one thing in the beginning, which is you. You have to be very good. Oh, it could be about anything, but be good at something really good. Because I can see today many people with this whole social media and investments here and there, they're trying to be good at everything. And so what happens when you start a conversation with them, you start losing trust in them because they jump from one subject to another. And that is not excitement, that is unclarity. So one thing about us that it was so clear when it comes to culture and tourism and guiding, and somebody wants to speak about the culture of the UAE, it was the name, the brand, Ask Ali. And that's what I was really good at. Now, I'm not going to say that, I dreamt about every single thing that I have today, but I did have ideas that I want to really have a company with multiple of companies under it to not put all my money investments and eggs in one basket, which I learned from all of you and from everybody.
So
And
let
so
me
what
interrupt
happened?
you for a second, okay? Because there's learning here for everyone before we carry on. So he's talking about focus, okay, Ali? To be focused, what's the one thing? Master that one thing. Don't get distracted with 100 things, which is what happens sometimes as entrepreneurs, okay? You're talking about having a vision, okay? And it can be as big as you want, okay? But you're starting off with one thing and a bit of focus, and then the rest, however you're going to get there, yeah? Is that fair? Is that a
And
fair
the
summary?
and the reason for that, Reg, which now I realize, is that no matter what, you do need a background of something. People have to link you back then into where you came from. Where are your roots? Where do you come from? So every single one of those successful entrepreneurs, they started it from somewhere, either from the major from school, or either from a problem with their family, or maybe with an idea or an investment. There should be, maybe they have many businesses, but you really have to have that background. And so to me, it was Ask Ali. This is just the least I could do for the brand that I launched my career with. So the Ask Ali website, where I answer people questions, that is who I am. That is who's me. I'm the guy who I know exactly why I was born. I'm here to help people, to assist people to know my culture better. So it's about education, it's about knowledge, and it's about sharing that. Later on, you build the brand, and maybe the brand made you $1 million, just $1 million. Fine. You don't have to be like so with many millions. You know why? Because maybe the idea that you have, this is the limit for it. This is the limit it can give you, just $1 million. Now it's time for you to know what to do with the next $1 million. And that's what you start to realize, oh, I could still learn about myself. I love to cook, Rage, and I do cooking from time to time. But then I realized that in my family, we also do very good chocolate, and we create chocolate. So 10 years ago, if you would come to me and you say, Ali is going to own a very successful chocolate factory and company, I would laugh. I would be like, I hate chocolate, Reg. Literally hate chocolate. I'm today, I'm today eating chocolate from time to time, and I have this factory, and I cannot even believe that I have Tokens Chocolate, one of our own businesses. And I'm very proud to say that this came because I built up huge, what do you call it? Credibility, Rich. And the second word that is important,
Brand equity.
Brand equity.
Yeah.
And then people started to realize that Ali would not do something unless it's really good, which is this word. The second word is the credibility. Are you credible? Because when you are not credible, I'm really sorry to say this, there's thousands of speakers around the world, millions of speakers, God bless them all. But when you think about a successful sales or marketing, why does the names comes up to 5 people only? Because they were credible at what they do. They're genuine at their own wording of what they deliver. And that is the second thing that is very important for people. Be credible source to what you're good at, because that is going to be passing on through your other businesses that you're going to actually own in the future.
I love that. Yeah, love it. And also I think, because I know you so well and others can't see what's in my head, there's almost like a map here. So you can imagine travel, culture, speaking, Ask Ali brand, answer your questions, start writing small bits for a newspaper. Newspaper says, this is good. Can you do this now every week? Okay. the national newspaper in the UAE. Now this thing carries on for years. Can you imagine? Every week he's answering questions. Brand continues to grow. Then the media side comes along. Yeah, maybe you can share with us how now, you're speaking, you're training, you're a cultural ambassador, you've won awards based on this, all sorts of things. And now suddenly, and I'm going back to childhood, traveling the world with your father and so on. You're doing all this stuff locally, and then media comes along. Talk us through that next wave of your journey.
Oh, I like that wave. That is true. It is like a wave that carries you to another shore. So as I'm building the brand, being credible at what I do, people see me as a source. People see me as an ambassador. I became an ambassador for the Environment Agency. I became a face for tourism and culture in the country. And that is all, with my books. Over 1.4 million of my Ask Ali mini guide distributed around the world with 6 languages. And then you realize, Rage, and this is one thing that many entrepreneurs, family businesses, and people who are into the business, I think that sometimes they don't get the message that, hey, this is it. This is the capacity of what you have now. It's either you go on the next wave, but people think, oh, I'm going to go through also another pain and I'm going to be starting from scratch with this new wave. It's normal. That's what should happen. So that what they say, no, let's just stick to where we are. And that's why you see some people leverage right away. They jump into a second wave, and because they accept that the second wave is going to come with its own pain. So for me, I have all of these works, this work that I have now, all of the books. My message is about intercultural, and I'm trying to reach out to the world. Social media kicks in, media kicks in, and then you realize, hey, couple of cameras, couple of nice friends, let's go to Sarajevo in Bosnia. Why, Ali, want to do that? Well, I got my reasons. Just let's go. We go to Bosnia. That was 7 years ago. And I told the guy, do you know how to use this camera? He says, yes. And I said to my other friend, just hold it and just press record. And both of them are filming me. And I'm like, hey, salam alaikum. I want to tell you a story about Sarajevo. It's actually safe here. And it's one of the most beautiful countries in the region, in this part of the Balkan. Really come and visit it. Let me go and meet some people. And I started meeting people. I come back with this pilot, and Reg, please understand, there was no intention that I want to do a full show with this and that. It was just the next wave, as you said, because I felt that it's time for me to share the knowledge and about the world to our own people in Arabia. And that pilot show became the first episode of a 230 episodes visiting 191 countries around the world. So that was the TV show called Duroob, which is available on YouTube, also in English. Very blessed.
I'll make sure in the description below that the details are there. I think there's over 200,000 subscribers who watch everything just on the YouTube channel. But what is it? 7 seasons now, is that right?
7 seasons. We have 144,000 subscribers. We have reached yesterday we reached 21 million views on the YouTube channel. And it's been a blessing journey. The production itself, the Maestro production that I have is something that, the puzzle game, Bridge, when it's there, your achievements are there. And remember, you used to say all the time, which I still even carry on the message, and I spread it all over the world. And I say that this is what I learned from you all the time, is that the future already happened. Your future already happened, right? And all what we do is that we go and we bring it to us. So what are you good at going to bring? Are you going to bring the good, investments, the good future for yourself? So what I say is that I'm just picking up all the pieces of my future and putting it into my own present right now. So this whole thing probably existed at that time, but I never seen it. I used just to envision it. Today I live it and I see it, and the production is part of my
First of all, congratulations, and you always remain humble when you talk about these things. But for me, it is time to share to the world, who Ali Al Saloom is. In fact, I may even call this episode Ali Al Saloom Exposed. Okay. Because it's about people understanding who you really are. You know, you are out there. You are a celebrity. You are a rock star in your niche area. But there's a lot of people around there in the world who don't even know what Duroob is. They don't even know the channel. They don't know the show. And okay, it was initially for the Arab world, where you're the first person that went to other countries to show them the culture. But I'm hoping now with translation now online and other captions that you can see with technology, people can now also appreciate what you're saying. And we end up with different versions of it. But I think, you know, I could spend hours talking to you, but what I really want to know for the last part of this interview is now with what you've built, okay, serial entrepreneur, serial author, serial media professional, host, presenter, investor in businesses, the list goes on now. And all that's happened for me, looking at your career, it's happened in a short space of time. But during the same period, you've also got married. You've also blessed with beautiful children. And now Ali's becoming a little bit, if I use the word older, maturer, okay? And now when you look at the future, let's talk the next 15 years that I've known you. I've known you 15 years. Now we talk about the next 15 years, and we take ourselves to 2035, right? It's December 31st, 2035. We're having a chat. We decide to do another recording like this, and you're looking back at the last 15 years. What are you going to be telling me?
Wow. I realized, Reg, that in a time like this, what we're going through right now in the world, with the pandemic and all of that, is that really what really matters the most right now is that how much knowledge have you really given your loved ones and the people that know you? How much of good work you've left for them that they can benefit from? And I've made sure that I really made all of this work that I have now to be online. I got my online academy training also, you know, for tourism and tour guides and all of that. Abdurrahman, my son, Salama, Wadima, and Fatima, my children. I really hope by then, may God bless us and we live till then, is that I've contributed into their own life positively. I cannot stress a lot, and this might some people not like to hear because they say you have to take care of yourself and your health and your children is one thing, but you also have to take care of yourself. But I started to realize right now that really everything I do, once you have children, it is actually for them and for the next generation. So it is no longer about me. It's no longer about, you know, me wanting to be just on the stage and just wanting me wanting to be this and that. I don't care if my box now sells more, which is weird. Really, I don't really realize that that is a big thing for me. I sold 1.4 million.
Do you think to ask you, do you think then our ego also goes through its own evolution? You know?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It goes into. I mean, you still care about, you know, you still care about who you are and your quality and your brand and everything, and you still want to be taken in a positive way and politely and all of that. But in the same time, let's say that things that pisses me off back in the days will never pisses me off right now. Things that really I see that it was such a big deal, I might go easy on it, but I would continue with my advice and helping other people. I might have much more wisdom in trying to improve my advice to the people around me. And I don't say this that I'm really the best. I'm just saying I'm able to actually influence the small circle around me. And those are my children. I cannot go and force my own knowledge to other people. But I do believe that I'm so lucky that I'm able to have my children to listen to me. Many of the parents around the world, their children don't listen to them. Do you know when your child calls you, Reg, and says, Dad, I just found a bird outside under your car, under one of our cars in the house. And Dad, I took him home. Please tell Mama and Salama and Wadima that they should not really scream because you told me. See, when he said to me, you told me, I almost cried, Reg. I was like, what? So Abdurrahman just found a bird 2 days ago, and he did exactly, Rich, what I do when I found a small bird falling out from the nest from the tree. It's the season for a lot of little hatches to come. So he brings it, and you know what he does? He goes and he finds some wooden from the tree, and he puts it in a box, and he puts a small cloth, and he goes to feed him. He's only 7 years old, and he takes a small little bread and put a little bit with water, with milk, and he puts it in the mouth of the bird until I come home. So I see the process. And so everybody in the family is saying, where did he get that from? And they all remember that I did this almost every month. So this is what I mean. How much of an influence are you able to influence your loved ones around you and take you as a role model? Because if you're not, if your children, if your loved ones around you don't take you as a role model, then that is a quick feedback to you that there is something wrong, because you're the closest one to them. And you're the one who is like the captain of this ship. So if the mom, if the dad are not becoming role models, then it's a problem. It's like a really problem. And I feel like I'm so lucky that if I see my child just do one thing good that I do, then something is right going. And that's what I like to carry on to see in the future, to see my children with their own choices in life came to be good for them. Because my father never forced me on anything except for one thing, Rich.
Mm-hmm.
You know what it is?
What was that?
He forced me to start my career as a doorman.
I do know
I
that.
had a master. I had a master degree. I spoke 3 languages then. I was one of the few, young students in the country with hospitality management and tourism. And when my father forced me in his life, that was the only thing he forced me. He said, I want you to do this, because once you become from inside able to understand the value that there is no small job and a big job in any entity, then only you can become a very successful GM. But if you're gonna go right away into that hotel to become a GM with an idea that the doorman is less than you, then you would never become a successful human. Can you imagine? Not a GM, but a human. So it's about really humbleism, and it's about really focusing and trying to nurture your inside soul. So until today, I remember that. So I want my son, I want my daughters to really one day to say that father forced us for something that might sound so weird. Why would a father tell his son to become a doorman? Well, it's not like, by force, by an eye, by a gun, but it was a force for the good of me. When he said to me, one day you're gonna grow and people will sit in front of you to listen to your story. And when you say your story, that is worth millions. Because a man in his life is never gonna be successful if he doesn't have a pain. Know your pain. What is your pain? That what gets you up and gets you to continue to be successful. I just want them to be like that. I want them to really feel that there is a pain. There should be a clear vision. They should take, the responsibility for what they do. And I want that to be coming from the closest people from them, which is the dad or the mom.
That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Okay. And I'm looking forward to that interview in 15 years' time. I think you've touched on so many different things in the interview. We talked about appreciation. We've talked about childhood influences and how a legacy, not just in a family business or a commercial sense, a legacy can also be passed down with values, guiding principles, which I totally believe your parents have done, and your father's done an outstanding job. You've continued that legacy by being a teacher, trainer, speaker, author, someone who's traveling the world. And I think you've carried on that legacy. And my gut tells me that at least one of your children, and I could, I think I know maybe which one, but one of your children is also going to continue this legacy and would want to travel the world as well, and probably take everything you've done to a completely different level. And that's what's going to make it very interesting to see. I love the humility. I love the idea of humility when it comes to things and keeping your ego in check. Sometimes we can think it's all about us and we're brilliant when that's not the case. You know, we're just blessed with a talent and a gift, and we have to add value to people. And I love the thing about, you know, there's an expression in family business called stewardship or custodian. So whatever you have, all you're trying to do now is let the next generation take that to the next stage, you know, and all we do is protect it, you know, being a steward, being a custodian. I love the story that you shared about your father saying, look, about being a good human being, first and foremost. So there's so many small, you know, one-liners and the story shared by you, Ali, today, which I hope people get a chance to watch this video over and over again. For those of you watching, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, share the video, leave your comments on the things that you may have picked up. And once again, Ali, I really want to thank you for your time and doing this for us.
Thank you.
And hopefully we can share this to as many people. And I look forward to the second part, okay, at some point, and we'll talk about the journey of the next stage. So any closing comments, Ali, if you were to give one or two other words of wisdom to our viewers, what would you want to leave them with when it comes to the Ask Ali brand?
You know, the best thing in life is to really know that you are on a journey, and it's very short. It's not a long journey. And if you really want to experiment things, don't, you know, delay it. Don't say, you know, later on I'm gonna do this. Do it now. If I did not hold the pen and paper and started really writing all the answers from the questions that came from people of the website of Ask Ali, I wouldn't have a book today that, you know, been distributed and sold all over the world with 6 languages. If I did not really believe in building a brand and building a proper and being disciplined to it. You know, Reg, this is maybe one of the fewest times that you see me with the white kandura, as you know, because I'm always wearing the brown, you know, kandura when I'm, you know, wearing things. So believe in your brand, breathe it, make it your own oxygen that you really can go with. Be really the brand that you are trying to be, and you will see magic happens to you. And one thing that I would never ever let go in my life, you know, values, consistency, Reg. If there is no consistency, nothing can really survive, you know. And we take an example like the UAE, our beloved country. You know, the consistency of continuing to help everybody, consisting of showing the respect, putting the proper laws. You know, a country sometimes can go up and down, but, you know, to continue with the proper systems all the time, trying everything to be perfect is not an easy job. So imagine on your own personal life, what are you consistent about? A bad habit or a good habit? Because you're going to be great at it, but you need to know, is it bad or good? So realize that consistency can become one day, like today, after 17 years of us meeting, you know, it will be amazing to see people say, Ali, you've never changed. Since we saw you, you're always with that excitement. You always want to help people. You always want to answer people questions. And that is the consistency that I would like to see in people who are listening to this. You know, and good luck to all of them, and may God shower blessings.
Beautiful, really good close. And I'm going to persuade Ali to see if we can also do an online live event, okay, soon, where hopefully the both of us can deliver some more words of wisdom for all of you. If you're interested, put it in the comments and we'll make it happen. On that note, stay safe during this crisis. Keep motivating and inspiring people, and we'll catch up soon. And thanks everyone for watching. Bye for now.